Hello and welcome to Apex Racing TV's live coverage of the iRacing Israel League. We join you live from stunning Suzuka circuit, where we've got 24 drivers ready to battle it out around the 5.7 kilometer circuit. We've got Alon, who's on absolute cloud 9 after 3 back-to-back wins in this series at Sonoma, Road America and Snetterton, but Dorian Tabechnic is going to try and top the two-time NASCAR Euro Whelen Series champion. He's been ever so close in the last 2 rounds. Maybe it'll be 3 times the charm for him tonight. My name's Dane Baird, and joining me in the commentary box and also controlling the beautiful SDK gaming overlay and the cameras you're seeing on your screen tonight is Adam Barth. Adam, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going well, thanks, Dane. Interesting that we're here on a Wednesday as opposed to a Monday, but I don't think that will take away from any of the action we've got coming up tonight. And you're right, it's an absolute classic circuit here at Suzuka. First hosted a Grand Prix in 1987, has hosted a few championship deciders since then, and here we are getting set for another hopefully exciting race in this series. All the races so far have been exciting. I'm expecting more of the same here.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, Alan 3 back-to-back wins. He's going to try and get his 4th tonight. But we're going to have some drivers trying to stop him. You can see Michael Sherling now as he comes towards the hairpin. They've got 2 laps here, and I think they've all completed their laps. You can see all on the left-hand side of the screen. They will grayed out, which means they've retired back to the pit lane. There's only about 45 seconds left of qualifying here. It's a closed qualifying session, and they only got 2 laps, so it's going to be interesting to see how those lap times might take a tumble on the first few laps of the race. Maybe it's Tabechnic, who's got provisional pole position, and I think he's going to be able to keep that 2/10 of a second ahead of Alon.
Indeed, yeah, very close between those two, and as Michael Sherling does indeed stop on what looks like his in lap. But after that, looking further back, it's pretty close between each other, but in terms of the gap to Tabechnic, it's quite big, as you can see. And covering the top 20, we've got 3 seconds, but it's looking good that the top 7 are separated by a second. So if they can carry that form over into the race, which we're about to grid up to in a minute, then I think we could be in for a pretty interesting one. But yes, Tabechnic and Day both setting the pace at the front again here.
Yeah, definitely, and it looks like Nir Nave as well, having a pretty decent qualifying. He's in 7th. We can see the grid here for the race today. We've got Dorian Tabechnic on pole, and we've got Alon in 2nd. We've got a new driver here, Shalva. Let's have a look at this name. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. The 18 car in 3rd position. We've got Hagay Farran in 4th. He is obviously our race 2 winner. We've got Nir Nave, our race 1 winner, in 5th position. Got Michael Sherling, IMSA Michelin, Peter Green in 8th. And we've got Adam Levitt, Sardekel, Nikop, and Oren Sade in 12th position. And in 13th, Evgeny Patent. And we've got Ori Lahav, Gil Epstein, Dekel Nar, Michael Simon, Shay Epstein, Ahikam Nawa, Eric Alster, Ido Isaac, Yehuda Ben Yosef, Yossi Gabai, and Ran Sioni in 24th position. Those final 2 drivers, they didn't set a time in qualifying.
Got a bit of work for them to do at the back. Looks like of course there is a rolling start in this series, so that's why you're not seeing any cars appearing on the grid. They are all over here, just at 130R. It's not too much of a formation, that really. You've got just about enough time to get some brake temperature up by braking into 130R. But yes, some tracks like Sonoma and at Road America, we've had the full pace laps here, so the drivers may get caught out a little bit by that as Dorian Tabechnic finally pulls up into his grid spot, and we are about to get rolling on the very short pace lap to get this race underway now.
Yeah, it's a similar situation to what we saw last time out at Snetterton. Obviously, only 2 corners to warm up the tyres and brakes. We've got the new tyre model. We're going to see, I'm expecting, quite a lot of weaving as Alon is maybe just a little bit overexcited to get going. As you can see them coming out of 130R now, and Tabechnic's going to hold them up slightly, and they're going to really have to try and get some heat into their tyres. You can see them, especially Alon on the right-hand side of the front row. He's making use of the brakes, trying to get some heat into them. Oh, we got another car off, like we saw at Road America a couple of weeks ago, and I wonder who that is. Looks like someone's been punted there. There was a car in the background with a bit of front damage and a car in the wall, but the pace car is going to pull away. And we are green at Suzuka, and Tabechnic's got a fantastic start. Alon is going to be following him. He's going to try and get into that slipstream in towards turn number 1. So we can see as the drivers all file up pretty much single file throughout the grid. A couple of drivers going side by side. Alon is not going to be able to make a move into turn number 1. So we can see Hagay Farran, and we've got, oh, it looks like Nir Nave off in the background. He's managed to slot back in just behind, in front of Peter Green. So they come through the S's for the first time. It's going to be very, very tricky for the drivers with cold tyres. Not much grip, as we've said before in this series, as Tabechnic still leads Alon. You can see in 3rd place, we've got Farran just behind him. He's going to try and catch up to Alon in front as they come towards the Degners for the first time. Into Degner 1, it's a fast right-hand kink into the difficult braking zone. Into the second one, it's going to take them under the bridge just after 130R, and Alon has got a better exit out of there. He's going to have a look up the inside, which will become the outside as they turn in towards the hairpin. He's going to try and get a cut back, it looks like. And it's a fantastic defense from Tabechnic in front, just holding up Alon, not letting that cutback happen at all. We've got drivers on the mini-map on the right-hand side. You can see they're quite far back, only entering the Degners now.
We'll have a look back at what happened at the formation lap in a few laps once we got them all settled down here, because I'm not too sure what happened there. But you're right, a good start by Tabechnic, by Alon in 2nd, and Shelva in 3rd as well. And a car off, that looks like it might just have been Hagay Farran. In fact, it has. So it was. So he's gone off. He's lost 2 places as a result. It looks like IMSA Michelin's gone by, and so too Nir Nave. So not the best of start there, but tarmac runoff area, it's all good, and he's back on the circuit. But and it looks like he's trying to get one of those places back straight away here.
He's going to look to make a move in the inside of 130R. That's not really a good overtaking opportunity, and looks like Nir Nave has just gone a bit wide, and he's going to lose out there. And Hagay Farran manages to get that position back as they come into the Casio triangle for the first time in the race. And he's going to have lost quite a bit of time to Michelin in front, and obviously the lead 3 as well. Tabechnic taking the fast lap of the race, as you would expect on the first lap. But he was weaving around on the front stretch, trying to break the draft between himself and Alon just behind. Hopefully we'll get to see a good battle between these two like we saw last week at Snetterton before that incident early on in the race. And like we've seen throughout the other race at Road America that we saw between these guys, they had some fantastic battles.
Yeah, and it looks like, we're continuing on from where we left off. Not too sure why the clock says 22 minutes in the books. Not too sure on that at all, but we are just under 3 minutes in, and these two have already set in the pace at the front. They've got 3/4 of a second to Shelva in 3rd, and then it's IMSA Michelin in 4th. 3 places gained. He was probably one of the bigger movers at the start of the race. Yossi Goodbye gaining 3. I think those were all a benefit of the incident that we saw just before we got going here, and a lot of curb getting taken by Alon here. They're not the lowest curbs in the world. They are quite raised off in some places, and that might catch some of these cars out, as again Dorian is on a defensive going into the hairpin here.
Yeah, and I believe there's a slight problem with our timing tower on the left hand side. It looks like lap 2 and the timer for a half-an-hour race have got slightly too close together, and we'll see when they cross the line if that becomes a 3, which we wouldn't normally expect it to. But we can see here Alon has made a move around the outside in towards Spoon Curve, and it looks like he's still there around the outside of Dorian Tabechnic. That's a really brave move, especially with the cold tyres. It's very easy for Tabechnic to maybe just get a bit loose and run into the side of him, but they're going side by side still as they come down towards 130R. Who is going to brake first? Are they going to stay side by side? They are, and Alon is off. He might lose a position. Oh, he's going to. And Dorian Tabechnic is under attack now as well as they go side by side through the Casio triangle. Alon is going to take that position right back, still side by side on the exit towards the final corner. And they're still side by side onto the straight, but Day looks like he's got a better exit and he's back up into 2nd. And we'll have to see now, is he going to try and make a move onto Dorian Tabechnic, and is he going to be able to hold off Shelva behind?
Oh, it's all very close at the end of that lap there. Got put up on 2 wheels, did Alon. Unfortunately, he was able to get the car back down on all 4s and carry on again. Let's not forget, these two did have a collision at Snetterton last week, and it resulted in quite a few other cars retiring as well. These two are able to carry on, but after a bit of damage, and hopefully we don't see either of them getting taken out, because we've got a fantastic battle so far, and this is really allowing Shelva a chance of winning in his first race here. He's keeping right on with these guys, and if these two start squabbling as well, watch out for Nir Nave. He's already gained 3 spots in this race, and he could be in with a shot of a podium as well.
Yeah, very uncharacteristic, fantastic performance so far from Nir Nave. He's not done too well in the first few rounds of this season, and we're going to have a replay now. And it looks like it's from the pace lap. Yes, it is. We're going to see what happened to the driver just behind, as I'm having a couple of problems with my replay, actually.
Yeah, number 10 got into the back of car 666 there. That was Yehuda, who, if I'm not mistaken, was involved in some sort of incident at the on the warm-up lap at Road America. But Yehuda did slow down for him, waited for him, and that's why we had all of those guys starting towards the rear of the field. So let's have a quick look at, while we are on the replays, at the collision between Alon Day and Dorian Tabechnic. Here it is again. Oh, just wheel to wheel, wasn't it? Contact between the two there, and it almost allowed Shalva here up the inside to take the lead. Here it is again, over the curbs at the chicane, and Dorian was able to carry the speed through, and then Alon Day straight up the inside there.
Yeah, very opportunistic move, and we cut back to live pictures, and we see Dorian Tabechnic down in 5th position, making contact there, which looked like it was a Michelin as well, which is very unfortunate for him. He was doing so well. He's round at the exit of 130R. Day is leading this race, followed by Shalva. But we're going to have to get another replay to see what happened there, because Tabechnic and Michelin were having a battle. What happened to Tabechnic on that lap that we were looking at replays? As Alon Day is leading this race once again.
Here it is for you then. Let's have a look at what happened. So this is Dorian Tabechnic going up the Alon Day, going up the inside. They touch again. He goes for a massive drift. Is he going to come back on the circuit? Oh, yeah. And poor Michelin, I don't think he had any idea that was going to happen. Let's have a look at it one more time just from his onboard. Here we go. He's got all 3 in front of him. Sees the yellow car go off, and then too late.
Yeah, that's so unfortunate for him. He was having such a fantastic race, running in 4th position. Alon Day, there was a bit of contact there, but not entirely sure. We'd have to see a better angle of that one to really try and work out if anyone was at fault for that one. It looked like maybe a bit of a racing incident indeed, but we can see Green and Sherling just behind Adam Levitt. They're having a bit of a squabble as well as they come towards the hairpin. Looks like Sherling is just about half a second behind Green, who's half a second behind Levitt. You can see on the timing tower on the left-hand side, almost all of the drivers have got some sort of yellow or orange writing there. Yellow obviously is within a second, orange is within half a second, and white is more than a second gap between the driver in front. We can see as they come towards Spoon Curve, there's also a battle for 3rd position. Farran, Nave and Tabechnic, who has been spun at 130R. He's now down into 5th position. Pretty fortunate for him. He's managed to keep both of his wing mirrors as well after some pretty hefty contact, which is uncharacteristic of this car. You normally see the new damage model taking the mirrors first. And we can see him coming into the Casio Triangle chicane for the 8th time. Well, not the 8th time. Whichever lap we're on now. We can see he's not got the best of exits compared to Nir Nave in front, but Nir Nave's right on the back of Hagay Farran. He's just about a 10th behind. He's going to pull out to the right-hand side. We can see a fantastic shot from Tabechnic's car. And Nir Nave's disappeared on my screen, but he's managed to make the move, and Tabechnic's into the back of Farran. More contact between the drivers, and the whole field's going to have to try and avoid them, and it doesn't look like they have. Farran's been hit collected by one of the drivers there. I see Tabechnic there going down all the way down to 11th place. He might lose out on a couple more as well. Doesn't look like there's too much damage to that car. He should be able to carry on just fine. But a bad day has got even worse for him.
Yeah, I don't know why I brought up the Snetterton incident, because it's just led to more shenanigans happening here. Tabechnic down in 11th place. Michelin, who was the innocent bystander in the crash earlier, is down in 22nd now. And the only driver left standing, as he now goes for a little bit of an off track there, is Alon Day. You can see we've got the pictures this week, so there he is there. And Shalva is 7/10 of a second away. In fact, he was quicker than Alon Day on that last lap by about 4/10 of a second. He's put in the fastest lap of the race as well. So this is turning into a great race so far for him. And Nir Nave is 4 seconds away from these guys now.
Yeah, Nir Nave 4 seconds behind our lead too. And just saw Shalva make a bit of a mistake out of the S's. He got a worse exit than Day. He was just about 4 tenths behind him before the dude Degners. And that gap has now increased slightly. They both look to be going off track, at least on our SDK Gaming overlay software, registering them as, which isn't the iRacing off-track counter. It uses a GPS-based system, which isn't always 100% accurate, but it gives a good idea of how many off-tracks the driver had. So we can ride on board with Sardeco. We can see from the helicopter up above, he is being chased down by Hagay Farran as they come through 130R. Are we going to see a dive? He's just about 3/10 of a second behind, but we're not going to see a dive this time. Is he going to try and make a move onto the main straight, maybe into turn 1, like he did on Nir Nave just a lap ago? And we're going to see he's going to get that slipstream that is really crucial. We can also see Green and Sherling having a bit of a battle up ahead as well. You can see Sardeco and Farran's just dropping back a bit. I don't think he's got the front line or straight line speed. With all that damage on the car, it's like the aero damage at the front of his car from that heavy impact is costing him some straight line speeds. We can see Deco Narin now are having a bit of a go, and there's a bit of contact. And now it's a bit sideways. Now manages to get through, but now there's a four-way battle here with Epstein and Simon having a go as well. But Epstein just got onto the grass a bit there, and he's going to drop back slightly. But we got a nice four-way battle here for what looks like 14th position.
Yeah, very decent scrap at the back there. It looked like it was Deco Nardo got by, and then it led to all sorts of a little bit of contact at the second part of the first corner, and everybody else having to scramble a bit. Someone's dropping places. Oh, off. That's the second Degners. That's Ori Lahav. I think he might have lost a door mirror in the process as well. Yeah, the left one is missing, right on our picture. But he's now down to 13th place, so that's a few positions for the likes of Gil Epstein and Yevgeny Paintant as well.
Yeah, definitely. That's a really beaten up looking Porsche GT4 car, that is. It looks like he's gone off at the first Degner and hit the barrier hard on the left hand side. Or maybe he was involved in a bit of a battle. Did they try and go side by side into the first Degner and there's contact? Is there? Oh. No, he loses it all on his own under braking. Looks like he's just got a bit of oversteer and corrected it a bit too much and manages to bounce back off the wall and straight back onto the track again. He didn't lose too much time. We'll see it here from his on board. He's going to come through here and... oh yes, he hit that lovely ditch on the inside there. It sent his car right into that wall. And that's a really heavy contact there. He's down in 13th place. And now there's a 5-car battle here. But I suspect... oh, with a bit of oversteer out of 130R as well. I suspect that he's going to pit this lap. But we've also seen Michael Simon. Oh, he's gone off, I think, to let the guys past. He doesn't hold them up. But Michael Simon has managed to get ahead of Naur and Nar.
Not too sure what line he was taking now, unless it was the old chicane. But yeah, he's coming to the pits now as Ori Lahav, probably just letting those guys by, as you were saying. And yeah, Simon has now become one of our biggest movers in the field. In fact, he's third, only to Hakim Naur and Rancioni as well in 17th place. So yeah, good solid drive through the field so far by Michael Simon. We saw that at Snetterton last week. Was he involved in a photo finish there? It was very close, I think. And meanwhile at the front, Alon Day started to put the foot down. He was last time around. In fact, he and Shalva set identical lap times. But regardless of that, Alon Day has now got just over a 1 second advantage. So he is starting to pull away just a little bit. The next closest battle after that is these guys here. The front end damaged car of Hagay Farran. He's got Star Deckel in front of him and then Oren Sadeh right behind him too. So decent scrap going on for the lower places inside the top 10 anyway.
Yeah, definitely. We've got a couple of scraps going on as we seem to be having every single week in the iRacing Israel League. And you can see on the track map on the right hand side all the drivers still pretty close to each other. But Alon Day's built up a 1.2 second gap to Shalva in second place. And unfortunately for the rest of the guys in the championship, it looks like Day might be on par as we reach the halfway mark of this race to getting his 4th race win in a row, which would really set him in a good standing for the championship. for sure. We can see, it's right on board with Hagay Farran, you can see he's just losing time, even though he's in the slipstream. It definitely looks like he's missing some straight line speed. But somehow he's managed to keep up with Sardekel in front and Sade behind, and not lose too many positions. He's very hard on the brakes, maybe a bit deep, but he's seems to be doing better in the corners, but he's losing time on the straights, which is not the greatest circumstances for him. So we can see Hikam Nauer in 14th position is dropping back a lot from Michael Simon and lost a place. Looks like those two are having a bit of a scrap as well.
Yeah, there's one battle between Yevgeny Patents and here's one driver that we haven't mentioned today. It's Ido Izak. He's got Ori Lahav. Oh, off, and I don't even know if there was contact there. I think he might have just lost it on his own. He has lost the rear wing and he's lost the whole rear assembly now after smashing into the tyre barrier. That rear windscreen might not be lasting for too much longer. Let's just have a quick look at what happened. I think the best for you to see this would be up above here to see if there's any contacts. Here we go. So on the inside is Ori Lahav. Yeah, no contact at all. Iza just loses it turning in on entry and then he goes off into the wall.
Yeah, it's another overcorrection, which is unfortunate for him. He's decided not to pit, which is a bit interesting as Ido Isaac. He's not had the best of luck in the last few rounds of this series, has he? He's been involved in a few incidents over the last few weeks, which have tainted his pretty decent result at Sonoma. But we see Sardekel here with Farran behind, and also Sade just behind him. This train of three cars not really losing or gaining any time to each other, still about 4:10 between these drivers. We can see this is pretty much the closest gap on our timing towers. Michelin takes the place from Le Havre, but Le Havre was very damaged. Michelin maybe using a fast repair. I'm not sure if the drivers have one in this event, but he's taken a position and made a massive gap. So you can see Epstein just losing a bit of connection as well on the left hand side, but these guys not too far away from each other, but not close enough to make a move, because Farran is just lacking this straight line speed that's so crucial to overtake with, because you need some speed to overtake. But it looks like Sardekel's gone a bit deep into the chicane. That's allowed Hagay Farran right up to the back of him. But unless he can get right in that slipstream and help him drag along, he's going to be losing time down this straight. You can see on the bottom right hand corner the battle for 7th. You can see that gap has stayed put at 0.3 of a second as they come in towards turn 1.
Looks like that Sardekel isn't having the best of runs through the Casio Triangle. That's when these guys really seem to close up on them. I think that's happened for the last 2 laps now. It is a pretty tricky corner to get right, especially with the speed that you're carrying from Spoon Curve all the way through 130R and up to that chicane. So that's allowed Farran to really close up. The damage, as he said, it looks like it's hindering them just a little bit down the straights, but in the corners, he's still looking pretty good. And if he can just keep that up and maybe gain some time somewhere else, maybe force Dekel into a mistake, then he might be able to get that 7th place back. And with just under half the race still to go, that's still a pretty decent possibility, as we are now on lap 9. We have fixed that timing screen on the top left, and we do now have the laps and the times a little bit of a way apart now.
Yeah, definitely. Hagay Farran seems to be doing much better through the corners. I noticed through the S's he was right up the back of Sardekel in front of him, and so was Sade actually. They all bunched up quite a lot, and Dorian Tabechnic just behind them was only about a second behind Sade, and he's gonna, as you can see on the screen now, he's not too far behind. He's gonna maybe, if these guys hold each other up a little bit, he's gonna jump on the back of this train and try and make his way up into maybe 7th place as well.
Well, there you go. That's the difference in lap times. Tabechnic did a that means that he was 0.6 of a second quicker over the last 2 laps. I've just worked that out. Of course, lap 5 and lap 6 was when Tabechnic was coming out of the pits and when he had another issue as well. But since then, he's been lapping consistently quicker than the guys in front, and there might just be enough time if he continues at the rate he's going. And of course, we know he's super quick. We saw the times he was doing in qualifying. He might be able to get by. It's up the inside. Goes Oren Sade on Hagay Farran. That's not what we expected. We were expecting Farran to be challenging Sardekel in front, but he's now checked out. He's off up the road, and now it's up to these guys, Sade and Farran, plus the arrival of Tabechnic on the scene now.
Yeah, they slowed each other up through the chicane, and that's allowed Tabechnic to get it right up to the back of Sade there. He's just about 3 tenths behind, and this battle for 3 cars is now becoming the battle for 8th. And it's like Sade is just caught up to Farran, much closer than we thought he was. And Farran's pretty quick through these S's, but so is Tabechnic. You can see how close they're getting between them, less than a car length separating those 3 drivers there. As they come through the S's, they got one more right and one more left to go before they hit the Degners. And then the hairpin, which might be an overtaking opportunity for Dorian Tabechnic. Just had to go a little bit on the brakes there as he gets cut off by a thing. And oh no, who's that? That's Sardekel who went off. And straight into him goes Sade. And that's allowed Tabechnic and Farran to go through. Farran's up into 7th, and Tabechnic had to slow right down. The gap between those two is now 2 seconds. And Sardekel goes from 7th to 13th.
Oh, what happened there? I was about to admire them going through the S's then, but Sardekel is not going to be happy at all about this. Here it is. So he's going through the final part of the S's now. Oh, he gets off line, and there's no grip out there. Off into the gravel he goes. Of course, the track is cambered as well, so that just adds to the issue and bangs straight into the side of him. Both of them lose their wheel as well, but I think with the iRacing damage not totally refined, they will get it back. But that is a massive sickener for Aren Sade. And what an advantage this poses for Dorian Tabechnic now. He's up into 8th. And next on his list is Hagay Farran after that.
Yeah, Hagay Farran in 7th position now after all of that. You can see he's slow in the straight line. That's going to allow Tabechnic, he's already caught up about half a second in the rest of this lap since that incident. But Sade is not going to catch him, I don't think. So we've got about 8 minutes left of this race, and Alon might have made a mistake somewhere because he's managed... Oh, sorry. The guy in 2nd place has managed to catch up the gap to just 7 tenths of a second. So if he can carry on like that, we might have a battle at the end of this race for the lead of this race.
Yeah, Kvitel Shavi. I think that's probably closest enough of it. I'm going to get to it. Is 9 tenths of a second quicker on that previous lap, and just fractionally slow on the previous one. So maybe Alon just had a bit of a moment somewhere. But yeah, the gap is now under a second. It's down to 3/4 of a second, in fact, through this first section.
Yeah, and he looks like he's gaining as well all the time as they come through these corners. Alon is taking so much curb through these Degners. You can see all up on the curb, and they're pretty big curbs, like you said earlier, and they really can unsettle the car. And it takes a very brave driver to be taking those as much as he is. He's going to take this deep line that he takes in towards the hairpin. It sets him up for a good exit, and you can see there the gap has moved up to 9 tenths of a second in Sector 3. He's dropped off a bit of pace, and we can also see Sardekel moving down more places. I think he might have pitted. No, he hasn't. So I wonder what's happened to Sardekel, down in 17th now. He's lost a place to Gillespie. Maybe the damage is hindering him quite a lot. We can see on the left-hand side of the screen all the gaps after those incidents are white, which is not what we want to see, because it means there's no racing. No, this is the only real battle in the race here between our two leaders.
Yeah, Shalva is looking like he's going to set another quick lap time here, because he gained a tenth through Sector 1, a few hundredths in Sector 2, and in Sector 5 as well. Sectors 3 and 4 were just the only places where he lost some time. So when we get to the lap, when we get to this timing line now, we'll see what the difference is. That's the laps over the previous few. Over line then, yeah, 300ths of a second quicker. It's not much, but it does keep Alon on his toes for the final 5.5 minutes or so, which it is a 2-minute 10 lap around here, so that would assume we have about 3 or 4 laps left at the very most here if we want to get the checkered flag out as day disappears. But that's nothing new if you've joined us in the past for several of the races. And yeah, he carries on his way. 6 tenths of a second now it's down to. It looks like Shalva is very good through this first section.
Yeah, it does, but he maybe just loses some time through the Degners and the hairpin down towards Spoon Curve. That seems to be where he's losing most of his time to Alon Day, but the rest of the sectors he's catching the 2-time NASCAR Euro Wheeling Series champion, and we can ride on board with him as he comes to the Degners. You can see how much curb he's taking on the inside here, all up on the curb, touching some grass as well. He's got to be careful not to get too many off tracks. They do get penalties if they get too many off tracks in the series. You can hear the tyres really squealing for grip as he goes around that fast right-hander before the hairpin. You can see in second gear out of the hairpin, he's going to get all the way up to just over 200 kilometers an hour, I believe. You can see on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, he's going to get up to quite a big, large speed, 220 almost. You can see just pretty much gaining speed or gaining time on this lap so far. Only losing a couple of hundredths, maybe only a couple of thousandths of a second on this lap so far. And you can see the gap is down to a second. It looks like car behind might have made a bit of a mistake through Spoon Curve, not had the best line, and that gap has increased quite a lot.
Yeah, Shalva, again, as he has been all race, pretty good through sector 1. But on the previous lap, he was quite good through the final sector. The gap does come back down again into the Casio Triangle, but that's how the gap is ebbing and flowing between these two. And it does give us a bit of intrigue as the race comes to its conclusion. Good battle there. Looks like Simon and Sade are battling, so we will leave this battle now, once I find the button, and go to see what's going on here in the fight for 11th and 12th place. Here it is. 8 tenths of a second between Simon and Sade. There you go. And they've got Sione 2.6 seconds behind them. And Shea Epstein is also in a decent scrap with Dekel Nar. Here they are.
Oh, he's running wide as they try to go side by side through 130R. It's not worked out well at all through any of this race. No one's gone side by side through there fully clean without having some sort of issues. And Shea Epstein not having the best exit out of the triangle, all up on the AstroTurf and the grass. That's going to compromise his exit as they go down towards the finish line, or start finish line, and start the penultimate lap. I believe we're only going to have one more lap after this one. We can see Nir Nave here as well, and Adam Levitt, closely followed by Michael Sherling. So you can see the cars and drivers just starting to bunch up a little bit towards the end of this race. Not the racing that we're used to in the iRacing Israel League, but maybe we'll get some towards the end of this race, as we've only got about 1.5 laps left at this point. Ooh. And Shirley not getting the best exit out of the hairpin. Looks like he went a bit deep.
Yeah, he got to a speed threshold that meant it showed up on our event view as him having a crash. So maybe a bit enthusiastic on the brakes there. But one good thing about this series is that if everybody spreads out a bit in the middle, towards the end they all start coming back together again. And indeed they are, because Sherling here is still trying to chase down Levitt, just under half a second between Epstein and Payton, and then a couple of attempts between Nara and Epstein, and Michelin and Dekel exchanging places too. There you go. That's at the Degners, and Michelin has got a much cleaner car than Dekel. Of course, he was the one that was reversing into the tyre barriers, wasn't he? So that's why the rear of the car looks a bit second-hand, and he's now down to 18th place after all this.
Yeah, two unfortunate races for those two drivers. Obviously, Michelin running in 4th before that incident with Tabechnic, who's down in 8th. That's not going to be good for his title hopes either, because he's only done a couple of races with us, and he came second in both of them. But he needed to carry on those performances if he wanted to have a chance at the championship, which looks like Alon Day is running away with at the moment. He's looking set as he's coming through the S's for the final time in this race, and they're going to almost go side by side between Nara and Epstein. Epstein just sticking his nose in just a little bit. But looks like he might go for the lunge in towards the chicane, and there's going to be a little bit of contact, and he's around. And that gap is now 1.5 seconds, so there's not going to be too much more racing between those two. So we can see here Alon Day, your race leader, as he comes now towards the hairpin for the final time on this final lap of the race. With 30 seconds left, they're not going to get enough time to cross the line one more time before that runs out. And looks like he's going to get his 4th win in a row, which is really amazing to see, but very unfortunate as well. Looks like Tabechnic might have really been the one to challenge him once again. And once again, unfortunate circumstances means he hasn't been able to.
Yeah, what's the saying? To finish first you have to finish. And Tabechnic, he did really offer something to Alon Day in the early going. He'd out-qualified him in qualifying as well. and there was a bit of contact in the early going, but in the end it was Tabechnic's mistake at this very corner, 130R, that wrecked his chances of challenging Alon for the win, and he's just gone about his business as the NASCAR Euro Wheeling Series driver, and here he is coming into the final corner now to notch up another win.
Yeah, just 2 more apexes left for the champion, and he's going to flash his headlights, celebrating his 4th win. It's Alon who will win at Suzuka, closely followed by the driver in 2nd place. I'm going to try and shove it. And then we've got Nir Nave, who's going to finish in 3rd position. But this battle between Sherling and Levitt's going to just take 4th position. And Sherling's going to have to settle for 5th position. And we've got Farran and Green in 7th. And then we've got Farran in 7th. We've got Tabechnic, who's going to finish in 8th behind the lap driver there. Oh, that wasn't a lap driver. That was actually Hagay Farran. And then we've got Yevgeny Patent. And Epstein just ahead of him, and Simon just behind him. Simon doing a fantastic race to end up in 11th at the end. We've got Sione crossing the line in 12th, and we've got Sade in 13th, Naur in 14th, and we've got Nar in 15th. We can see there's still a little bit of a battle between Deckel and Yossi Gabai, who we haven't seen much of in this race at all. And he's going to overtake him because Deckel has no straight line speed. Look at that car. That car is absolutely wrecked, but he's going to go a bit wide on 130R. Is Deckel going to make a lunge around the outside into chicane? Yes, he is. And they're still side by side, but he just about manages to keep the position. There's a guy that he just took into entry of 130R, but he's going to finish in 19th. Deckel in 20th. And just waiting for the last driver, which is Nir Nave, who's going to finish in 24th.
Yeah, I admired Sar Deckel then, trying to go around the outside with, despite the damage he had. He looked like he was about to take advantage of Yossi Gabai's error there, but unfortunately it didn't work out for him. And after not pitting for that damage, he ended up drifting back to 20th place in the end.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate for him. And I think we're going to have the race results on the screen. Yes, we do. We've got Alon Day winning the race, his 4th consecutive win in the iRacing Israel League after 6 rounds. He's going to definitely be on top of the championship standings after this one. We've got Shalve in 2nd, Nir Nave in 3rd, Adam Levitt in 4th, Michael Sherling in 5th, Peter Green in 6th, Hagay Farran in 7th, Tabechnic in 8th. Very unfortunate race for him. 30 seconds in the end behind Alon Day. We got Gil Epstein in 9th, Evgeny Patent in 10th, Michael Simon in 11th. We got Sione, Sade, Naur, and Nar in top 15. We've got Shea Epstein in 16th, IMSA Michelin in 17th. An unfortunate race for him as well. He was up in 4th at one point. And we got Ori Lahav in 18th, Yossi Gabai in 19th, Sar Deckel in 20th. With that pretty gutsy move around the outside to the final chicane. And then we've got Nir Nave in 21st, Yehuda Ben Yosef in 22nd, a lap down, Arik Alster 2 laps down in 23rd, and Ido Isaac retiring from the race after his incident at 130R in 24th. He didn't finish.
Right then, time for some interviews. Who do we start with? I guess we probably got to start with our race winner. He's back on top of the podium for, I believe, the 4th consecutive time. And yeah, let's drag him up for a quick interview.
Alon, how's it going? You're back in the Apex Racing TV commentary booth, and yet again, you are the race winner.
Yeah, and yet again, it was pretty intense with Dorian. Racing, hard racing, Robin is racing. That's all. I'm happy to win again.
Yeah, now 4 consecutive race wins. That's a pretty impressive feat you've managed to do. You've managed to beat Dorian 3 times, and you looked like you might be able to take the win after qualifying. He was on pole position by about 0.2 of a second. Did you have a good qualifying, or was that a bit slower than what your pace was?
No, I gave everything I have. Absolutely everything. I knew that Dorian will be quick. Again, I knew that if I want to pass him, like if I want to win, I will have to pass him as quick as possible, at the start of the race, so I put a lot of pressure on him already at the start. Yeah, we had a couple contacts, but in the most dangerous corner of the track. But yeah, it was fun. Unfortunately, after my car was jumping in the air, I drove with damage, and also Shalva did an amazing race. I mean, the guy just showed up and put a lot of pressure on both of us, me and Dorian. And although this is my fourth consecutive win, I'm pretty sure that the next couple of races will be tougher and tougher, and you can see that the level is getting higher.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of Shalva, do you want to give us a bit of a pronunciation guide? How are we supposed to pronounce his surname there?
It's Shalva, I think. Yeah, probably.
Oh, just watching a moment in 130R between you guys where you ended up getting flipped onto two wheels as well.
Yeah, I was jumping in the air, and when I land, I think I had some damage. Yeah, it was too ambitious to try to overtake there. I knew it's not gonna be that easy, but that's probably the only place I can attack him with a good slipstream. So that was one of my only options.
Yeah, definitely. It looked like it as well. You were only really catching him with a slipstream. The slipstream on the start-finish straight wasn't that great, and obviously Spoon is a pretty difficult braking zone as it is.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to overtake in Spoon. Yeah, but it was fun. I like the fact that the GT4 is not that quick, so so you really have to maintain your speed in the corner and always try to not make a mistake, because the smallest mistake, especially here in Suzuka, which is a extremely fast track, the smallest mistake you make, you're gonna lose a lot of time in a lot of places. So you have to be 30 minutes absolutely 100% focused, and that's the reason why I'm like so impressed with Shalva, that managed to keep the gap between him and me in less than a second, I think, for the whole race. So I think that's pretty impressive for a guy who just show up.
Yeah, definitely. It was a fantastic debut performance, him finishing in second. Next week, the series heads to the old bridge circuit at Silverstone. Do you have any experience at that circuit?
No, my only experience in real life on Silverstone was only on the new track, and the national version. But beside that, I know the track from iRacing since a long time, and I know the track in general, even every kind of layout. It's fun. It's a bit bumpy to drive there in that version, but I think it's going to be even quicker than here, and will require even more abilities to keep your focus as high as possible.
It definitely had some fantastic racing at that circuit in week 13, and hopefully we'll see a lot more of that next week, which is again going to be on a Wednesday, I believe, and then we'll be back to Mondays after that. Well, Alon, thank you very much for joining us in the commentary box, and hopefully we'll see you next week as well in the Apex Racing TV commentary booth for another interview.
Thank you guys for having me, and thank you for everything. And thanks again for the Israeli Championship for organizing such a well organized championship. It's been fantastic. Thank you guys.
No problem, Alon. Well done today. Right, who do we move on to next then, Dane? Who else have we got here? We've got Dorian, who of course started on the pole. We've got Shalva as well, and we've got Sione there. So let's move on next and get Dorian in. Put him up there first, just in case he is chatting to anyone in the interview room. Move him in here. Dorian, welcome. Started on the pole, and you had a decent battle with Alon in the early stages, but then there was 2 bits of contact at 130R over 2 laps.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. First couple laps, it was a common racing incident. I mean, it's pretty obvious there's gonna be contact there. Unfortunately, I was just looking at the replay. It looked like just a little bit of netcode, and because of that, the slight contact that we should have had was much harder. And I held the best drift of my life. That was the best thing I've ever done in iRacing. And unfortunately, Amir paid the price, because as soon as I gained control, I had nothing. I had nowhere to go, and he was right there. So sorry, Amir. Wasn't my intention to kill you. But yeah, unfortunately, we couldn't keep the fight up the whole race as I wanted to, because I was looking forward to defend hard, because I knew we were very similar in pace, anyways. But we have a surprise in the league. Shalva is really fast, and we have another contender. It seems.
Yeah, he's getting to be a familiar adversary of yours. Is Alon Day, and you had Shalva joining you as well in the opening stages. That you must have enjoyed the racing there before it did turn sour a little bit there.
Yeah, it didn't go as planned.
What about after? Because you had to, I think you had another moment, didn't you? And then you had to fight your way back through the fields, and you very nearly got an extra place. You nearly got Hagay Farran at the end there.
Yeah, I kind of felt bad because I spun him on T1 after a couple laps, and so I didn't really want to make a move that might cause another accident. So I decided to lay back. It wasn't worth the risk at that point. Uh, yeah, I don't know who's to blame for that one. He had a blinking car on his left. He had a crazy desert boy on his right. So you never know what you can never expect someone to do something expected on that situation. Because as you can see, I'm looking at the replay right now. He was blinking and he tried to go for a cutback, but I was already inside. I had no control. So but yeah, I mean, I guess I'm at fault here. So I kind of felt bad. I didn't want to make another move.
Seen a few drivers avoiding it there. Next week, I believe we're going off to the old version of Silverstone. We've got much experience
Hmm
of racing around that track. It's quite different, I guess, compared to Suzuka, with it being a bit wider than racing around here.
Yeah, it should allow better racing. I think more overtakes and safer overtakes because there are slow corners where you can overtake, so you don't have to take a lot of risk. I've done a few races there. Managed to get decent lap times in. It's gonna be an interesting race for sure.
Oh, well done on managing to salvage a top 10. Before we let you go, do you want to send a quick shout out to anyone?
Yeah. First of all, sorry, Amir, and thank you for making this league so great. Thanks, Sim Race, for sponsoring you guys, basically financing our broadcasters, who are amazing, by the way.
Thank you.
Uh, Thanks for all the participants and the new guys in the league, bringing in some more competition. Chalva's gonna give us trouble next week. We'll wait and see.
Great. Well done on the race today, getting up to 8th place. It could have been higher, but I'm excited to see more of what will happen between you guys at the front. It was looking very good until the contacts after a few
Yeah,
laps.
we just need to keep it together for a whole race. I wonder what will happen if we manage to.
Great. Well, yeah. Thanks for taking the time to come and speak to us, Dorian, and yeah, all the best next week.
All right, cheers, guys. Thanks.
Oh, that's Dorian. Next up, our man who finished runners up today, Shalva. So let's get him in here for a quick word.
Let's see if we can get him in here. Shalva, how's it going? You finished second in your debut race in the iRacing Israel League. How was that race for you?
It was difficult. Thank you. Thank you. It was great. Um, Obviously, Dorian and Alon were very fast at the beginning. They were going hard at each other and was just trying to keep my nose clean. Obviously, being my first race. And well, after that, I was just lucky to stay in Alon's slipstream for the whole race. I realized pretty quickly I didn't have the pure pace to overtake him, so I was just trying to stay in a mistake range, hoping he would make some sort of mistake and I could take advantage of it. But obviously, alone being an expert, it didn't happen. So yeah.
Yeah, he's a very consistent, is Alon. That's his fourth consecutive win. I'm not sure if you knew that, but he's very quick and very consistent in these GT4 cars. Being your first race, you did pretty well in qualifying. Do you have much experience in these GT4 cars? Are you doing the Michelin Pilot Challenge as well?
And not really much. I'm hoping I'll get better as the weeks go along. Hopefully, in the next race, I'll get faster. This was my first week racing the car, so hopefully next race I can contend for the victory.
Wow, yeah, that's a fantastic result, especially for your first week driving the car. In my first week driving the car, I think I finished 19th, which is not the best race, but for you, it's pretty fantastic. Next week, like you've mentioned, it's the head series is heading to Silverstone, the bridge circuit from I believe 2009 or 2008. It was scanned, so it's a historic layout of Silverstone. Do you have much experience at that track?
I love the track. I think the old layout is really underrated. It's really difficult to drive, really, really bumpy, even bumpier than Suzuka. So I think it's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. It is a very bumpy track, and I prefer the old layout to the new arena layout that they've got now. But I think we've got a couple more people waiting for some interviews, so I'm going to let you go. Before I do, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Just to the league organizers and you guys, thank you very much. I had a great time, and see you next.
Well, thank you very much. Well, all the best for the next week's race at Silverstone. We'll hopefully see you once again at the sharp end of the field. Thank you very much for joining us in the
Thank,
commentary booth for an interview.
thank you very much, guys.
All right, Adam. Who we got next? I believe we've got Peter Green and Sione as well, waiting for an interview. I don't believe we've actually been able to reach either of these two in the past. We'll have to.
Have we tried Peter every week and we haven't been able to
I
get
think.
through to him?
I think we have. Maybe we can try again.
Let's get him in here now.
He did finish up in 6th position.
Peter Green, can you hear us?
Yeah, hi.
Oh, welcome. Welcome to the commentary box. A 6th place finish for you today, and there were quite a few incidents going on around you in the early going. What was it like trying to avoid all that?
Well, that was not easy. Just I was trying to attack the person in front of me. I don't remember which one it was, and at the same time trying to defend my position behind me. And after that, we had a white car spinning, and I guess I touched him, and that got me totally confused. And I think that was Michael behind me that started really pushing, and then he got me a few corners later. And I just couldn't find the pace to catch up. Usually I'm about a second off the leader's pace.
I think it's been a solid start to the season for you. What are these GT4s been like? They look like they're pretty comfortable to handle, and then just when you least expect it, it tends to throw you about a bit.
Yeah, they are kind of challenging because when you just they're not forgiving as much as I would like. So small mistakes usually cost up a lot of time.
Yeah, and
That's really challenging.
with a track like Suzuka today, one of the more challenging, I guess, we're going to go to. How did you find it out there?
Well, I don't know. It's like not easy for me.
Yeah.
Anyway.
What about Silverstone? What about Silverstone next week? Have you got much experience of racing around there at all?
Well, yeah, I did some races around Silverstone, both versions of it, but I was never quite fast at Silverstone. I have a few corners that I could never really figure out. Maybe I'll put in enough practice time, and maybe I'll be a bit more ready.
I think one thing in your favour might be the amount of drafting and slipstreaming around there, especially in the race. It will probably help keep you all bunched up together. So opportunity for a decent finish, perhaps.
Yeah, that's possible, maybe. And well, yeah, that's it.
Great. Well done today with a 6th place finish. Before we let you go, do you want to send a quick shout out to anyone?
Well, just great driving to all the leaders, very good pace. You're pushing us to our limits. Thank you, Amir, again for arranging all of this, and thank you, guys.
No problem. Well, yeah, again, well done on the 6th place today. Solid finish,
Thank
and
you.
hopefully we'll be speaking to you again next week.
Cool. Thank you.
Right then, good to hear from Peter there. This means that finally it's Sione who finished in 12th place, then gained 12 places. He was our biggest mover, so he'll be happy with that, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Let's try and get him into the commentary box. And it is Sione in the commentary box. Welcome. Can you hear
Hi
us?
guys. Yeah, I can
Yes,
hear
you
you guys.
Beautiful. You finished in 12th position in this race, and you did pretty well there. You managed to gain 12 positions,
Yeah.
which is the most of any other driver on the grid today. So congratulations for that. How was the race?
Thanks. Well, actually, I had a technical difficulty at the start of the race, and the sim crashed, and I couldn't get in time to qualify, so I had to start in the back of the grid. And then in the start, I locked my eyes on someone that just spun in front of me, and we both spun. So I lost a lot of time, but I managed to get back in pace, and I felt fast and managed to pass a lot of people. 12, you said, I think.
Yeah, it was
So
12. It was fantastic.
so I didn't make any big mistakes, and if the race would have continued a couple of laps, I think I would have managed to get into the top 10. And if I could have managed to qualify even into the top 5. So last couple of races, I had a couple of technical issues, and I think I'm getting into pace. And after a lot of time that I didn't do any sim driving, I'm getting in back to pace. So I'm quite happy.
That's fantastic to hear. You had a fair few overtakes, definitely, and it was didn't get to see too many of them on stream. We were more focused the battle at the front of the field,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
obviously.
But yeah, it was a fantastic battle up the front of the field. But you managed to sneak your way up into 12th position. Hopefully next week you'll be able to qualify and you won't have those technical issues you told us about, and we'll be able
Yeah.
to see a bit more of you on the broadcast, which would be nice.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And next week, the series is going to head to Silverstone, the old Grand Prix circuit. Do you have much
Yeah.
experience driving there?
Yeah, I did a couple of races around the old track of Silverstone, and like other people said, I think I'm even more familiar with Silverstone than Suzuka. So I think it's gonna be interesting, and it's gonna be much easier for me to learn all the braking marks and new apexes. So uh, finger crossed. I think it's gonna be a good race next week.
Yeah, definitely. It's a nice wide circuit, Silverstone. There's quite a few straights in there as well, which should be good for some racing as well, which you don't seem to struggle with too much, especially the difficult circuit to overtake at like Suzuka. You did pretty well.
Yeah, and Silverstone offers a lot more pass opportunities. So yeah, I think it's gonna be an interesting race.
That's great to hear. We're going to let you go. The broadcast is going to be wrapped up in just a few moments' time. But before we do, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, of course, like everybody said, shout out to Amir for organizing all this, for Sim Race, Hagay Farran for sponsoring you guys, Apex Racing for broadcasting the races, and everybody that participating and making this happen. Thank you all.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you to the sponsors of this series. It's a fantastic series, and hopefully it can gain a bit more traction as well. Thanks for joining us in the commentary box. Hopefully we'll see you next week as well.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. Adam, do you have any final thoughts on the race?
If I mute myself. Yeah, it was very, very good. Even though in the mid part of the race I wasn't too much in the way of close battles, they did start to come together again at the very end, and we had drivers fighting through the field, the likes of Rancioni, Dorian Tabechnic, of course, fighting back after the few collisions that he had in the opening exchanges, and everyone seems pretty pleased with their performances in the end. And we did get a quick sample of what life's going to be like with Alon, Dorian Tabechnic, and Shalva, our newcomer, all together at the front, and it looks pretty good. So at Silverstone next week, where the track's a bit wider and there are plenty more opportunities for slipstreaming to happen, I think we could be in potentially for our best race meeting of the season so far.
Yeah, definitely. Silverstone next week is going to be a very exciting round. I'm sure it's lots of overtaking opportunities, and I'm really looking forward to that one. That is once again going to be on a Wednesday next week, but after that, we're back on Mondays on the iRacing Israel League YouTube channel. And make sure you do subscribe to the channel if you are new here, and also go and subscribe to Apex Racing TV's YouTube channel as well. Also, make sure to give us a follow on all the major social medias at Apex Racing TV. And from Adam and I, and all of us at Apex Racing TV, that's a good night. And I'm going to steal Marco Barbanero's line, and happy racing.